Hey guys, welcome back to the Matt's a Million channel, and in today's clip I'm going to be taking you through all the lessons that I learnt from taking on my small account challenge, where I took a £145 personal account to take it all the way to being fully funded, just to see if it was possible. Now, it has been a while since the last video, and that's just due to YouTube taking a bit of a backseat where life got in the way, but for those of you that didn't watch the original mini-series that I was putting together, essentially I'd shelled out some advice saying that you should always put whatever challenge fee you're willing to pay into a personal account and trade it in there to prove that you can hit the trading objectives, and then try and pay for the challenge itself from profits that you've made. And essentially this was for two key reasons. One was to be able to pay it out of profits / money that you wouldn't have otherwise have had, and two, you've proven that you can hit the real targets with real money in real market conditions. But with that being said, it was very easy for me to say, being in somewhat of a privileged position, being fully funded and having a healthy sized personal account. So that's why I started that mini series, is to put my money where my mouth is, to see if I could genuinely take a really small capital account and then apply my own principles to see if I could hit all the parameters and then use those profits to pay towards a challenge funding. Now, I also didn't just want to pluck a 200k figure out of the sky and just put in £1,000 into a personal account, because that is far easier to trade in this example than, let's say, somebody who would be looking at taking a 10k or a 25k or a 50k challenge for people that don't necessarily have access to that initial starting capital. And I really wanted to put myself in the shoes of the people that I was trying to give this advice to see whether I could take that small account and all the problems that came with it. And leverage is a huge one when you start trading with a very small capital. So with that all said and done, I decided to deposit £145 into a live account. This roughly mirrored what a 10k FTMO challenge was worth at the time. So this seemed to be a sensible choice, trying to look at people who may be not looking at targeting the higher price challenges just yet. Now, challenge number one, by trading this small amount of capital, like I just said, was really finding a broker that could deliver enough leverage for me to be able to trade effectively with that small sum. Now, for me, it's a little bit more difficult, as I only really trade indices, which obviously comes with a much higher margin requirement. Now, I won't go into all the details of the broker now because I did that in a previous video, but generally they have surprised me. I've actually ended up taking out an additional account and putting higher capital in one because everything was actually quite smooth from end to end. But if it is something that you're looking to follow in the footsteps of or try out for yourself, I will leave a link for the broker that I used in the description below. Now, I've been releasing my videos updating on this mini-series periodically, so if you do want to go back and see how this transpired over time, I'll link up the first video here, and then you can kind of make your way through from there. But ultimately, I did manage to scale up the account incrementally and hit the profit targets that were required from the challenge. And the latest balance that I managed to get to, I've got my phone here and I'll put it up here so you can see, was a whopping £278.64. or in percentage terms, 91.58%. Now, first things first, when we delve into these results, what you can first see is that drawdown figure of 33.16%. Now, I'll link through the video that I released before when I made this absolutely catastrophic boo-boo, and I will be running through it later in this video as well when I run through what I've learnt and also what I've proved. Anyhow, moving on, just to complete the roundup of the stats, you can see here that you've got the growth chart going from where we started, obviously, up to where we are, percentage-wise. Then we've got the balance, where the balance has tracked nice and steady upwards. And then finally, the pound profit increase that we've managed to get to on the starting balance. And now moving on into the deeper stats, obviously you can see here from 34 trades that were taken overall, 74% were winners and 26% were losers, which obviously I was absolutely delighted with. The average win and loss was, of course, ruined by my absolute idiocy in terms of making that mistake, so we can really ignore that stat. But we can see from here that I took far more longs than I did shorts, and I won 72% of the longs that I had taken and 80% of the shorts. Now, this is a little bit surprising for me, so for those of you that have been following me for a little while will know that I'm more of a buyer than I am a seller, and I tend to see long setups better than I do shorts. But I would say since sort of the middle of this year, I have made much more of an effort to try and refine how I can take short positions. So whilst it's only a small sample size, I'm pleased to see, because usually my shorts would be sort of more around the 60% mark. And then you can see the best trade and the worst trade, which again was ruined because of me being an idiot, so we can ignore those stats because it's not particularly accurate. And I am annoyed that I made that mistake because I was really proud of the stats that I was putting together sort of in real time for this. And then the other interesting thing is the average trade length. A lot of people say, how often do you stay in a trade and so on and so forth. forth, and a lot of people speculate, but it is quite nice to see it here sort of in between 10 and 11 hours. And then finally, we just see the monthly gain between the 2 months that I was doing this small account challenge, so June and July, and 31.69% and 45.48% respectively. So from there, I had the choice of who I wanted to choose as my funding provider, and after a load of fishing around, I ended up settling on My Forex Funds. Now, I did actually do a video comparing My Forex Funds to FTMO, which I will link up here. There have been some amendments lately with the FTMO updates, and I'll need to record a new one, but it will give you a good reference point to understand the core points of My Forex Funds and perhaps why I chose to take them. But the long and short of it was that I was trying to put myself in the mindset of the person that I was trying to communicate this to. And to be honest, if we're looking at spending £145 or putting £145 into a personal account, then the chances are we're going to be cost conscious when it comes to buying the challenge. So all being well and that the company is legit, it made sense to save money. And so as you've probably guessed, My Forex Funds is significantly cheaper than FTMO, especially when taking this lower level challenge. Now, I will leave the link to My Forex Funds in the description below. Alongside that, there are some discount codes that you can apply if you're looking at doing something similar. But just to quantify the difference in price for those 10k challenges, it works out at $179 for FTMO and just $84 for My Forex Funds. So it is a considerable difference, to the point where you can almost get 2 bites at the cherry with My Forex Funds for 1 of FTMO. There were another couple of points that were worth considering, namely the first part of the challenge target. Obviously with FTMO it's 10%, whereas with My Forex Funds it was 8%. Both have the same verification target at 5%, although My Forex Funds do allow slightly more max drawdown in the 12% mark, but that wasn't really a swayer for me. So with this in mind, I purchased the challenge and I got cracking. So as we're in stat mode, I'll bring up the account metrics bit for My Forex Funds just so as we can run through exactly what happened. So as you can see here, from the $10,000 starting balance, I managed to make 8.2%, trading 4 lots across 13 trades, including the mini trades that I needed to get over the minimum trading days target. And from the bottom there, you can see the equity curve from when the target was hit. As you can see, it took roughly 2 days or so to actually get there. And if we scroll down, you can just see the confirmation of the no violations detected and just the actual profit being confirmed in that bit and the 10 trading days passed and so on and so forth. So overall, really successful and really chuffed with the challenge. So as you can imagine, I've had quite a few questions surrounding My Forex Funds to do with their platform, customer service, spreads, are they legit, do they pay out, and all this sort of stuff. So I am going to be making a separate video where I completely review the ins and outs, completely unbiased, and then I'll run through the second stage of the evaluation, the payout process, the payout proof, and I'll put it all to bed once and for all. But just so you don't have to wait until then, yes, they do pay. I have received 2 payments from them, though I have done that through Crypto Wallet, not through the latest payment portal that they've just released. Now, I did share when I got it on the actual day and the exact money coming into my Crypto Wallet and such over on my Instagram. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff and the daily updates, then please head across to my Instagram at Matt2Million, where I try and post most of the time through the week. So from taking a £145 personal account and passing a funding challenge, what have I learned and what things can you learn from this too? Number one, and it is a big one, is that my boo-boo didn't cost me my entire account. And as you may have seen from the previous video, what had happened was I just made a massive error and completely screwed up the lot size and ended up by drawing down by 33%. But from there, I did manage to get myself back on track. So the lesson here is pretty obvious, and what I wanted to prove, albeit not quite as dramatically, is that had that been a funded account, I would have lost the entire thing. In turn, I would have lost my entire challenge fee. So in this example, I drew down 33%, but I still had money left and I could still carry on trading and keep learning those lessons. Had that been a challenge, I would have lost that money altogether and it would have been wiped out based off of that drawdown. So instead of ending up on 0, I did end up with egg on my face and a hill to climb, but that personal account allowed me the flexibility and freedom to be able to keep trading, to learn from those mistakes and to keep building. And more importantly, it allowed me to stomach that big mistake without losing more than what the mistake actually cost me. And all whilst learning some valuable lessons along the way and letting me live for another day. The point here isn't specific to this individual mistake. It's the premise that if you are still learning, if you are still nervous trading on live accounts, the personal account is going to afford you far more leniency and flexibility to learn more lessons and to keep trading after large losses, rather than just getting wiped out. If that challenge fee, for example, was all the money that you could afford at that point in time, and you failed the challenge based on a 10% max drawdown or tipping over the 5% daily drawdown, you've then lost that money until you can afford to pay it again. In the personal account, yes, you take the loss, you can learn from the loss, but you can keep trading and keep learning the lessons and keep having skin in that live market, which in my opinion is the most important thing of all. Now, of course, I know there's the argument out there, well, you should know all the daily drawdown rules, you shouldn't do the max drawdown, you shouldn't make mistakes. I agree. right? I agree. But the point is that would you rather just have your money taken away from you should you make a mistake, especially if you're early on in your journey, or would you rather be able to fight another day and keep being able to trade and learn more lessons? And the next thing I learned, number 2, is that trading that size of account so low is tough. Due to lot size and restrictions, I had to be a bit more flexible with my risk, so at certain points I could only cap it at 2%, not 1% as I would ordinarily, just due to the fact that the lot sizes did not go low enough to allow me to risk 1% on the larger trades. And as mentioned before, adding to this point, it is very difficult finding a reputable broker where you can get the leverage necessary to be able to trade that account completely normally without you tripping over margins or margins getting in the way of you being able to take certain positions. And just the final one on this point is, whilst I always say to focus on percentages, and that's probably what you're taught in a lot of areas as well, it's very difficult to see it that way and get excited about percentage wins on such a small account. You know, it's hard getting excited about £16 in profit, you know, because it's 16 quid. Even if that was 8% of the account, it's very, very difficult to keep your mentality to the point of focusing on those percentages and keep feeling motivated. And finally, point number 3 is not so much what I've learned here, but hopefully what you can learn here too, is that the profit targets were managed. Yes, I blew the drawdown thing, so I know I would have lost, but generally speaking, that drawdown was from a mistake, not from poor, consistent trading. The other thing that is useful here is because I linked it up to my FX book, you've got your true win rate from it, where some people do leave a few bits out of their journal because they're either embarrassed or just can't be bothered to keep updating it. At least through that portal, it's all going into the same thing, so it gives you a true definition of how your trading is working. And ultimately, to this point, this is what I was trying to prove. If you couldn't hit the profit targets, or you really struggled, or you kept on failing, or you drew down, or you blew the entire account, the fact is that you still get more lessons from doing that on a personal account than you would have just getting a 10% max drawdown on a funded account. And if you did manage to hit the profits, that is what gives you the confidence, the ability to know, well, I can do this on the live market, so I will be able to do it in a challenge, and therefore you're going into it more as a business as usual approach, rather than thinking it's sort of life or death when you get in there. So overall, did I prove what I set out to prove? Yes. Was it easy? Absolutely not. But do I still stand by it being the least risky option for your capital and confidence and your onward learning? Absolutely. Of course, if you disagree, then fight me in the comments, but only in the comments because I bruise like a peach in person. I'll be back soon with that full review video where I go through the evaluation stage 2 for this account and running through the payout process and the payout proof and so on and so forth. But that's about it for this one. So if you have enjoyed it, please show some love on that like button, the subscribe button, head across to my Instagram if you want daily or regular updates. If not, it's been a pleasure as always. I'll catch you on the next video. Take it easy.